You know how some meals are just made for certain seasons? And I know you know that soups and casseroles have cozy winter written all over them. Hi, welcome to Meals with Maria. Today I have cozy casseroles in your 9x13. I feel like there's nothing that says warm winter and cozy like a 9x13 dish and the meals that come in them. These are meant to be eaten on a chilly day when you're wearing a cozy sweater and warm fuzzy socks. They will warm you from the inside out without breaking the bank. So go ahead and grab yourself a hot cup of tea or coffee and sit back and enjoy. This bacon cheeseburger tater tot bake has all the flavors of a summer cheeseburger, but in that cozy casserole format. So it's perfect for the fall and winter when it's colder outside, but you kind of still want that grilling flavor. It gives you the best of both worlds. You want to start by cooking up some bacon, or you can have fully cooked bacon slices or even bacon bits that you already have. You want about 12 slices. I used just a pound and that worked out fine. And then I have one large onion. I'm just going to dice that. And then in a pan over medium heat, you want 2 pounds of ground beef, or I think ground turkey would work out just fine in this as well. That would taste delicious. And you want to brown that with about a cup of the onion. So you do want to set aside some of the onion because we're going to put some raw onion on top, kind of like you would on a cheeseburger. And you cook that until the beef is no longer pink and is tender. That took me about 8 minutes. Then you do want to drain off your meat. Add in 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, 1 tablespoon of dry mustard, about a cup of tomato sauce. I think it just meant like plain tomato sauce, but I had like marinara sauce in my fridge that I wanted to use up. So I used that, more flavor, no fail. And then 8 ounces of Velveeta cheese, or I ended up using the Clancy's Aldi version of Velveeta. So you can even just use the generic brand. It'll work out totally fine. And then you cook that all together, and you really just want to melt down that cheese and make sure everything gets mixed well. That's going to take another 6 minutes for that to melt. You want to grease a 13x9 pan and pour in your beef mixture. You want to sprinkle that with your pound of crumbled bacon and then 2 cups of cheddar cheese. As always, I'm using like the last bits of one type of cheese and then the rest of another. And hey, we're not measuring because we have the cheese on hand. Also, if you had less cheese or you want to change the type of cheese, it's going to be totally fine. This is a very relaxed recipe. You can even use whatever your favorite type of cheese is to put on a cheeseburger. I bet American slices might be pretty good too. And then we're going to top this with frozen tater tots. So you just want to layer them in rows, and this is also a great make-ahead meal. So if you wanted to, you could put the tater tots on either last minute, or you could even put them on now and then put it in the fridge. I think it would be fine. It might cook a little bit faster, but it's up to you how you want to do it. And then we are going to bake this at 400 degrees for about 35 to 40 minutes. And I actually did make this ahead. So I made it. I told my husband put it in the oven at a certain time because I had taken my kids to a doctor's appointment. It came out of the oven right before we got back. It was perfect. And then I just topped it with some chopped pickles, tomato, and onion. So you want to use the rest of your onion that's left over. About 1 Roma tomato is what I used, and about 1/3 cup of chopped pickles. And that really just adds all that flavor to it. Kind of makes it more of like that fast foody flavor. So if you're not into that, you totally don't even have to put that over the top, but I feel like it really adds something extra. And the whole family was loving on this. This is a big win. It's like I said, it's like that comfort food, but it's also something that you already know, and it's a great comfort casserole.
What do you think, JJ? Can you give it a rating?
A 10 out of 10.
Really good?
Mm-hmm. That looks like a raisin.
No.
Next up is a turkey and wild rice casserole. This is super easy and great to use either leftover turkey or leftover chicken in. So I had chosen turkey because it was right after Thanksgiving. You're just going to start with the original Uncle Ben's wild rice. You're just going to follow the package instructions on this and cook it all the way through. Now, while that's cooking, you want to add 2 tablespoons of butter to a pan, melt those down over medium heat, and cook about 1/2 cup of chopped onion and 1/2 cup of celery. You also want to make sure you have about 2 cups of shredded turkey or chicken. And once your celery and onion is cooked down about 5 minutes, you want to add in 1/2 cup of sour cream, those 2 cups of chicken, 1 can of condensed cream of chicken soup, that's about 10.5 ounces, and 1/3 cup of dry white wine or chicken broth. I just ended up using chicken broth because that's what I had on hand. And then you want 2 tablespoons of fresh basil, or I just gave a nice squeeze of this basil that I had on hand from Aldi. It's like a basil squeeze, and that gives a lot of flavor. I really, really like the basil in this. And then once your rice is ready, you just want to mix that in too, and that is going to make your entire casserole. That's pretty much it. We're going to add that to a 13x9 pan and cover it with about 1/3 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. And you're going to bake this at 350 degrees for 35 minutes until it's all heated through and bubbly. And it was absolutely delicious. I just served this up with a little bit of broccoli, and wow, I really, really like this. It's almost like a thicker, creamier, like wild rice soup. But it's hard to explain because a lot of that flavor comes from like the kind of seasoning packet and the Uncle Ben's. So you don't have to add seasoning to it. That's the wild part. All of it kind of comes from what you're already adding in, which makes it delicious. So I'm a huge fan. And so is Ben. Next up is an Italian hot dish. This is so good. It's something totally different, like I have never made before. You want to start with about a cup of green pepper. You just want to dice up 1 onion and 1 cup of green pepper. And then we're going to slice up 1 container of mushrooms. And with mushrooms, I know a lot of people wash them, but I did do some reading on them. And the best thing to do is actually kind of wipe off the brown stuff that's on them, because when you do wash them, then that adds more liquid to them, and they already are quite, they have like a lot of moisture in them anyway. So you really don't want to add extra moisture if you don't have to. Then in a skillet over medium heat, you just want to spray that down with some sort of oil. I'm adding 1 pound of ground beef. I just had grabbed mine from the freezer and defrosted it. And those mushrooms, onions, and peppers. And we're going to cook this down for about 7 minutes until that meat is no longer pink. Add in 15 ounces of tomato sauce. I'm just using like a marinara, 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of dried basil, a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. Then you want to cook about a cup and a half of uncooked noodles. I'm using rigatoni, but you could use bow tie. That's the recommended method. The rigatoni was delicious too, so whatever you have on hand, I'm sure will do. You want to add that to the bottom of a 13x9, or mine's a little bit smaller, so it ended up being kind of full, but it worked out okay. And then you want to top that with your ground beef and tomato mixture, and then we're going to put about a 1/4 cup of sliced mushrooms that are uncooked right over the top of that, followed by a tablespoon of Parmesan cheese and a 1/4 cup of mozzarella shredded. Then you want to cover this with aluminum foil, and we're going to bake it at 350 degrees for 35 minutes in that covered form. Then you want to take it out of the oven. We're going to sprinkle it with another tablespoon of Parmesan cheese and another 1/4 cup of mozzarella, and put that back in the oven. Heat it through for another 5 to 10 minutes until that cheese is melted. And this is your delicious dinner. This is so cozy, just like the others. This is such great winter meals. Just make you feel good and warm from the inside out. I want to thank you so much for watching today. If you want some more cozy meals, go ahead and click on this next cozy crock pot meal ideas video, and I will see you all very soon.